Thank you very much. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to stand on existing protocol. It's really great to be here, and credit to Advantage Austria for organizing this Africa Day. It's great to see the interest around Africa, and I believe this interest is rightly placed when we think about, as has been said so far, the immense opportunities that exist on the continent. Now, some of these stats have already been shared, but I'm just going to zoom in on the so what of some of these statistics. At the moment, we know that the continent it's a young population. More than 75% of the continent is less than 35 years old. And we've heard as well that there are challenges in Africa, that it's a marathon. And I would like to pick up from where Kipchoge said in his video, the fact that we need to ignite a candle for Africa. And I'm going to aim to ignite that candle by presenting a different perspective, which is the fact that doing business in Africa can be a sprint. Yes, it is a marathon, but it can be a sprint. And there's a lot of evidence that the potential that we talk about in many ways is already being realized, and increasingly so. So at the moment, we've seen a mobile revolution in Africa. One of the good things about the continent that we're realizing now is that on the flip side of every challenge is opportunity. And some of the challenges that exist have really created a fertile ground for immense and accelerated growth, particularly with the use of technology. So in the mobile space, for example, one of the challenges that we've had in the region is just infrastructure deployment. In the late 1990s, we had limited fixed line infrastructure. There were about 100 million phone lines in Nigeria, across Africa about 2 million phone lines. But today we have 1.2 billion mobile connections. Mobile technology provided an opportunity for us to leapfrog fixed lines and accelerate growth, and that resulted in the telecoms revolution on the continent. And that has also made it possible to consume a number of mobile-based platforms and services. That's a very positive story. And MTN, which is one of the leading telecom operators in the region, when they entered the Nigerian markets, they had a 3 to 5 year plan for breaking even. They achieved that in 6 months. So these are real stories to show that actually doing business in Africa can be a sprint. And technology is what is really providing that opportunity to scale the challenges and provide the opportunities on the other side. So I'm just going to paint a picture about the region. So we have hubs across the continent. When you think about North Africa, around countries like Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, East Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania as examples. In West Africa, hubs around Nigeria, Senegal, and Ghana. Southern Africa, South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe. And I've just shown some of the successful startup businesses in these regions. Some of these are already unicorns. Those are businesses that are worth over $1 billion. Now, the graph here shows projections around digital payments and mobile internet users. The brown represents the growth in digital payments, and the green represents mobile internet users. Basically, we can see a year-on-year growth in these metrics, and from 2025 to 2029, so within the next 5 years, it is projected that digital payments worldwide will grow by about 16%. In Asia, about 20%, but in Africa, about 26.8%. So again, we're seeing a trend around continuous growth and adoption of digital technologies and solutions. And we're seeing growth in some key sectors across the region. What's unique, as I mentioned, is increasingly the youthful energy that we talked about on the first slide. we're seeing a lot of innovation. These are, people with a lot of entrepreneurial spirit, a lot of drive, very aspirational. It represents a ready market for the consumption of products and services. And a lot of them are actively innovating, looking at using technology to solve local problems. So on the left, we have 8 sectors where we're seeing a lot of entrepreneurial activity successfully. Leading that is in the fintech space. Of all the unicorns on the continent, about 60%, 60 to 70% are in the fintech space, and they are addressing a very important need, which is solving financial inclusion, looking at removing barriers to payments regionally, payments across borders, access to credits, lending, savings, and a whole host of financial services. In the health space, where we see situations where the ratio of patients to doctors in many parts of Africa is not ideal. We have a shortage of doctors in a number of areas. Technology solutions like telemedicine, remote diagnostics are going to be increasingly playing a very important role. In edutech, again, when you think about, in some cases, shortage of teachers, dynamism in updating curricula, edutech solutions are springing up, just looking at new ways to enhance learning at scale. So these are some examples of the growth sectors. In the last decade, Africa has produced about 10 unicorns. The dominant sector is in the fintech space, as I mentioned before. And it's interesting that a number of these companies are already worth more than banks, traditional banks that have existed for decades. So for example, Flutterwave is actually currently worth about $3 billion, and it attained unicorn status in 5 years. I would call that a sprint, won't you? Not a marathon. And we're seeing a lot more of this type of energy and these kinds of results. So having said this, we've talked about the fact that there's potential. We've talked about the fact that we're realizing the potential. Technology is playing a big role. And the fact that we're seeing a lot of successes. So what does it take to actually win in Africa? I would say that doing business in Africa and playing to win is both a sprint and a marathon. From the perspective of a sprint, one unique thing about the continent is that it is large and there are so many opportunities. Fast action to tap into and serve and meet those needs is important. Agility to enter the market, secure early advantages, establish a market presence, and respond to dynamic consumer needs. The kinds of agility you would get in any business, that's also very real and present in Africa. Speed to market, to be able to actually meet those needs and capture market share. At the same time, it can be a marathon. There's a need for long-term commitment and a focus on sustainable models that can scale across our markets. Building trust, understanding local contexts, navigating, in some cases, regulatory frameworks or infrastructure gaps. Those are things that can take time. And ensuring that we have models that are sustainable and scalable. I'm just providing some specific examples around businesses that have been successful at maintaining the balance. Sprinting, so getting some very quick and tangible early wins, but also investing for the long term. Two of these, the first two are actually unicorns today. So MoneyPoint, they identified challenges around financial inclusion, providing payments agent banking, looking at providing POS terminals to underserved areas, and just really addressing that in a very sustained and focused way. They were able to ramp up very quickly, and that's from a sprint perspective. And they have also been investing heavily in building a robust infrastructure to scale their operations sustainably. They recently had a huge investment from Visa and recently became a unicorn. Flutterwave, they also, in the payment space, found a gap around being able to make payments for SMEs and just challenges around cross-border payments. And that's something that they rigorously and intentionally focused on solving. They've also been investing in long-term infrastructure, diversifying their business model. Now they're looking at additional services, diversifying from payments, and also just making sure that their business model is robust. Twiga, that's in the food space. They identified inefficiencies in Africa's food supply chain and provided an online B2B marketplace that just connects farmers with vendors. And in addition to that, they've been great at just building extensive cold chain logistics networks and just streamlining operations. So these are examples where organizations have attained quick wins. I mentioned Flutterwave became a unicorn in about 5 years, but they are also investing for the long haul to ensure that that success is sustainable and they continue to experience sustained growth. So if I put all these thoughts together, in summary, I would mention 5 things that are important when we think about doing business in Africa. If we just think about the marathon, it might be a little discouraging to say, am I ever going to reap the benefit of my investment? How long is it going to take me? And also, there are usually questions around, do I know the market? Who do I invest in? Where are the partners? How do I de-risk my investment? So it's really important to first develop local expertise and understand needs. Africa, actually not just Africa, there's a saying that your laptop is a very dangerous place from which to view the world. There's something to be said for, real experience and, building, relationships on ground. And so having that local expertise, understanding the sectors and the need areas, because a lot of these unicorns became unicorns by addressing real and pertinent needs across sectors. So you saw an aggregation around fintech, but there are so many other sectors that are ripe for investment. And for every unicorn, there are probably about, there are hundreds of businesses in the same space that are doing great work, but just need support, need investment, struggling to access funding, and that have actually very strong growth potentials if they get the right partners. While I was leading Google in West Africa, one of the things we did as part of Google for Startups was work with different startups across the region. And it was always amazing, the level of innovation, the creativity on display, and how a lot of these businesses were doing a lot with very little. In spite of infrastructure challenges, they were going over and beyond to make things happen. The second thing is obviously build strong local networks. I would offer an open invitation to say, don't be far away. Invest in coming into the continent and meeting with accelerators, incubators, getting a sense for the energy that we talk about, experiencing that firsthand, and really touching and tasting and seeing the opportunity. Obviously, conducting relevant due diligence, and also adapting investment strategies. It's sometimes, and that comes with understanding local needs and the market, just really looking at what models are going to work. Perhaps there's a different model of investment, maybe investing directly into the service or the goods, or just looking at varying that. And of course, providing value beyond capital. Beyond capital, a lot of entrepreneurs need support around just even scaling, navigating international standards for them to be able to maximize and reach the potential of those businesses and just overall capacity building. And so, thinking more broadly about our investments is very important. And in summary, I would say it's really great that there's a lot of interest in Africa. I think it's very well placed. We're starting to see, especially with the use of technology, a lot of returns, on investment. The continent is ripe. The labor is there, a lot of resources, and you're welcome to come close and experience the continent. And there are many organizations and individuals that will be happy to partner in helping to create experiences where you can really touch and feel the energy and the opportunities in the region. Thank you very much.